Hey everyone, how's it going? So we're going to continue with our kind of UI we're working on right now. We're probably going to start with the post form at the moment. So, the part where the users can actually post something. If you look at my actual page, you'll see this is the kind of thing we'll be going for. So before we do that though, there is one thing I want to do that I kind of forgot to do. Well, I didn't forget, I just decided I want to change it. So the text color of these icons is quite dark at the moment. I think it's just full black. I want to just change it ever so slightly. So all we're going to do is go to our CSS file and go and find the nav A part right here. And then let's just set the color in there. We'll just say color is going to be 212529. So that's a color I have written down here. I didn't just make that up. But so if we refresh the page now, we shouldn't see much of a difference, but it will lighten ever so slightly. Now if I click on that and inspect on it just to make sure it worked, if I click on the anchor tag, I can see our color there, so it worked. It's not so dark, but it's a little bit better than it was. But yeah, that's a real subtle change. So anyway, let's get started on this part here then, the status update form, or the tweet form, whatever you want to call it. So what we'll do is we'll go back to our text editor, and I'm going to show you how to use something called Mixins. Now, Mixins is just a way that you can reuse pug code to, reuse UI elements across your whole site. So it would be so important in this case, but it's still worth learning about, and we will be using it in the course, so we may as well look at it now, right? So what I'm going to do first is go to the Views folder and create a new folder inside of that. So inside the Views folder, I've got a new folder, and I'll call it Mixins. That's Mixins for Mixins. Alright, and inside of there, I'm going to create a new file, and let's just call it mixins.pug. Okay, so this is where our mixins are going to go. So mixins are just reusable blocks of pug code that you can use at any point. So it's still pug code, just like our pages are, but mixins are where we're going to store all of these reusable blocks, essentially like little functions which give us the elements we want. So we're going to make one of these mixin functions for the post form, just so I can demonstrate how this all works. So what we'll do is we'll say mixin, and then create post form. Okay, and this will be our mixin function. Now, we don't need any curly brackets, so you don't have to do anything like that. Mixins don't work like that. We just use a new line like that. So press enter and make sure you tab across, because as with all the rest of the pug code we've been looking at, the indentation does matter here. Now, in here, all you do is just put any UI elements you want, and it behaves in the exact same way that we used it in our other pages. So that means that we're going to have a div, and we do a div just by specifying a class. So post form container. As with the other pug code, we don't need to write div here, we can just write the class only. We're going to tab into that to then put an element inside of that. We're going to then have a div for user image container. Oops, make sure you put the uppercase and lowercase characters right. So user image container, and then inside there we'll have an image, so img. Press enter, and it will give us the source and the alt tag. So the source, what's that going to be? Well, if you look at the user table, or the user, collection, you'll notice that we have a profile pic attribute right here, and this has a path to a default profile picture. So if I go to here, we want to just basically put that in there. Now, how do we do that? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to make this function take a parameter, and this will be user logged in. It's always going to be the logged in user, because we're never going to create the post form and add a different user's image here. This is always going to be the user logged in picture. Okay, so then all we need to do is take that user logged in variable, which we will pass into this function, and just call useloggedin.profilePic. I think that was what it's called. Was it profile pic? Yeah, profile pic. Okay. And then the alt tag is just what would show if the image didn't load for some reason. So here we can just say users profile picture. So you will actually see this at the moment because we haven't added this image. I've got an image right here hidden behind this thing, but we'll get to that in a second. But let's just continue with this part for now. So yeah, actually, let's go and test what we've got just to make sure this all works. So we can use this function now just by calling it. So what we need to do though first is link to this page. So in the main layout page, we're going to scroll up to the top, and right at the top of the page above this doc type declaration, we're going to say include, and then we want to include our Mixins file, but because we're in the layouts folder right here, we need to go back one folder to get to this root level where we can access the Mixins folder. So we need to say // and then the folder is Mixins, and then the file is also called Mixins, like that. Okay, so now we would have included the Mixins file, which means we can call that function. So where do we want to put it? Well, we want to put it not on this page actually. We don't want to put the post form in the main layout page, because if we did that, it means that the post form would be there on every single page. And you know, if we go to the search page, for example, we don't want to see the post form there. So the post form is not something we want to put in the main layout file. What we want to do is put it in the home file. But it's still good that we linked it in here. That was the right thing to do, because by linking it in the main layout page, it means from here on out, every page that uses the main layout will have access to the Mixins. So it's still correct that we put it in there. But all we're going to do is call it from in the home.pug page instead. So what we'll do is we'll get rid of both of these. These we'll just put there for us to do some testing with and make sure it worked. But we'll get rid of those now. And we're going to call this function. Now, how do we call a Mixins function? Well, it's actually quite simple. We're going to take, just copy the whole name of the function and the parameter as well. And let's just paste it here. But we don't call it like this. To call a function, you need to put a plus symbol in front. So that now, we'll call the function, and anything this function outputs will be just injected here. So you should see all of this code there. It's exactly the same as if we did this. If we just took all this code and pasted it here, it is exactly the same as that. That's what will happen when this page is evaluated, okay? So we're calling this function there. But the user logged in variable, is that what we called it? Let me just double check in app.js. Okay, yeah, we called it user logged in right here, so that should all be good. So I think that will work. Let's go and give it a try. Now, we haven't changed any server files. We've only changed pug ones, so we don't need to restart the server or anything. Let me just refresh this. And there we go. This actually worked. Like I said, we haven't actually got an image yet, so we're seeing the alt tag. But the fact that we're seeing the alt tag means that it worked. So we may as well just finish off the HTML of the post form. There's only 4 more lines to go. Now that we know it works, let's just add the rest of it. And then we'll style it in another video. But like I said, just 4 more lines, so bear with me. We're going to go on the new line and move back to in line with this user image container, because this will be an element alongside this user image container. So this one's going to be text area container, like this. Text area container, and then we're going to have a text area right there. Now, I've just realized text area is one word, so let's not have an uppercase A there. Let's have a lowercase a. So text area container, and then we can give it an ID if you want. It's put this pound sign in there because it wants us to give it an ID. So we can just say post text area. And then we don't care about a name or the columns or the rows, so let's just get rid of those, and we're just going to put a placeholder in there. So placeholder is going to be, what did I put in here? What's happening right there. So we'll just put that as well. So in the double quotes, oops, what's happening. All right, that will do us. And then the last thing we'll do is just create a div inside of there. So alongside the text area, we'll say, oops, buttons container. This will be where the post button goes. So then on the new line, we'll just say button. Okay, and then we'll give this an ID as well. We'll say submit post button. We're going to make this disabled to start with. So we'll say disabled equals and then empty string, and this will just add the disabled attribute. And then the last thing we're going to do is just add some text there, and we'll just say post like this. That's what the text of the button will be. So I've noticed these colors aren't changing, which suggests something's wrong. Maybe there's something wrong. I'll have a look in a second if there is. Maybe I just haven't spotted it yet. Either way, let's give that a save and let's refresh the page. And yeah, we have we have an error. So I think we're missing a bracket somewhere. And yeah, I can see it on the image line. We don't have a parentheses, a closing parentheses, I mean. So yeah, let's put that in there, and let's refresh the page now, and we should see the post form. We've got a disabled button, we've got our text area, and we've got the user's profile picture, which of course isn't working yet, but it's a good start.